Everyone, and welcome to Inspecting for FHA Minimum Property Standards. Thank you so much for being here today. In case you're curious, this is the Casey O'Malley Inspection World Las Vegas 2013, and this is Inspecting for FHA Minimum Property Standards. If you are not thinking about learning about FHA Minimum Property Standards, you are in the right room because you should want to know it. So in case you think you're in the wrong room, you're not. Okay? So what we're going to do today, as some of you have already discussed, we're going to be going into a lot of issues with regard to the FHA minimum property standards, and it's very interesting. Some of you have already shared some information before we started about issues that are coming up for you in the world of FHA, and this is great because this is very timely. I am actually quite happy that I am the one who is going to be speaking with you today as the last speaker. As a trainer, usually we hate to be the very last speaker on the very last day before people are trying to head out. But I'm actually quite glad that I'm the last speaker on the last day before you guys head out, because I am anticipating, actually I am hoping, that all of you are completely teched out. Who here has had all the technical training they feel they need till the next Casey O'Malley conference? Raise your hands. Okay, so you have now succeeded in accomplishing your goal of getting all that technical knowledge you need. Now I'm going to give you information that is going to be about how to grow your business by adding a whole new module and by understanding what FHA minimum property standards are and how they affect your FHA consuming public. So, who here was in the class that I gave on Monday at lunchtime? Who here was in the Monday class? Okay, so about half of you. That's excellent. All right, so for those of you who were not in the class, let me tell you a little bit about who I am. First of all, I was born in a log cabin in the back hills of, no, that's sorry, wrong class. So I actually was not born in a log cabin. And if Jessica, if you could do me a favor and ask Dave to come back. The picture looks very fuzzy to me, unless it's my imagination. Does it look fuzzy to you guys? A little bit? It could be fine-tuned a bit. So, okay, we'll ask David. He can sharpen the picture a bit. I actually was not born a home inspector. I did not come out of the womb wanting to do home inspections. And actually, I had a background in music until I went to college, and I took a degree. I got my degree in electrical engineering from Cornell University. This, I'm sure, does not look like the picture of a future home inspector. But one thing that was important to me in my life was, and the way I got into this business, my mother, who you see here pictured with me, she died at the age of 32 from lupus. I was the only daughter. I was the oldest. I was the only girl. My father worked for the City of Philadelphia Licensing and Inspections, and guess what he decided he needed to do? Take Daddy's little girl everywhere he went. So instead of playing with dolls, I did play with a few, I ended up going around the City of Philadelphia with my dad when he would inspect properties for the City of Philadelphia Department of Licensing and Inspections. And actually, I actually worked as an inspector for the City of Philadelphia. No, I did not take the kickbacks. No, I did not take the bribes. Okay? Because how many here heard about Philadelphia and their corrupt system of bribing the Philadelphia inspectors? So that was not me, but I actually was involved in that. One of the things that I learned from my mother, I was 12 years old when she died, was if you have a goal, if you have a vision, if you have a dream, you live that dream up to the day you die. She actually was a biology teacher at Northeast High School in Philadelphia, and she wanted to improve herself, so she was going for her master's in education. And she literally worked to achieve that Master's of Education until the day she died. She did not make it. She actually was 6 hours shy of receiving her Master's in Education from Temple University. And as a measure of the respect of what she tried to accomplish, they awarded her the degree posthumously. She was the first person in the Temple University history in 1972 to receive a posthumous award for Master's in Education. My father accepted the award. And it showed me that the only thing that should stop you from going for your dream, going for your goal, should be death. And you know what? That has helped me a great deal as I pursued my career in my life, because I actually started my home inspection career 20 years ago. How many here have been doing home inspections for 20 years? Not many of us, is it? And the person who raised your hand, what's your name, sir? Brian? Mike. Mike, we talked earlier. There were a lot of women doing home inspection 20 years ago, weren't there?
I didn't know any.
That's right. I was one of the first, actually. I was the first in Pennsylvania. I don't know about any other places in the country. So I had a lot of warm reaction from the other home inspectors at ASHI meeting. Can't you imagine that? Okay? But with my background, that's perfect. With my background, it was a little blurry. Does it look better? Guys, look better? Okay. Okay. Still a little blurry?
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. So with my background in electrical engineering, I wanted to go into the path of being an engineer, but they wouldn't, not many people were hiring female electrical engineers 20 years ago. I could be the secretary if I wanted to, but I couldn't get hired as an engineer. So I actually started my home inspection company back in my city of Philadelphia. So in my home inspection company, with the fact that I was a woman, I had to create a niche that would separate me from my male competitors, because they were looking at me like, you know what, I'd rather go with him because he's a guy. He should know better what to do with this. And so what I did was I created a niche of working with buyers who were working with government involved entitlements, government programs, government insurances, and government subsidies. One of the things that we did was from 2000 to 2007, my company was one of three firms that received a grant from the city of Philadelphia to do inspections for home buyers who were receiving a special type of funding assistance called a settlement grant. And we were paid $550 per inspection. In addition to the regular normal home inspection, however, we were required to complete a housing quality standard checklist based upon FHA minimum property standards. And when I did that, that's when the light bulb went off in my head. Here is my niche. Here is how I can take this to the next level by focusing on understanding and working with FHA government program inspections. And that's where I started out. So I have performed over 3,000 home inspections. I have been a 203K consultant for over 12 years. I actually teach at the Drexel University of Science Center. I teach lead risk assessment and lead contractor compliance. Now, let me ask you a quick question. First of all, before I start, will it be okay if from time to time I sneak in some extra information that I wasn't planning on, but that reminded me as I said something? Is that okay? Can I throw a little bonuses every now and then? Okay. How many here are familiar with the EPA contractor certification requirements for lead?
The RRP rule?
Huh?
The RRP rule?
No, not the RRP. Tell them, Tom.
If you have a contractor that does any remodeling on homes, I believe it was before
78.
They're required to be certified through the EPA or face fines of up to $37,000 per day.
And if the contractor is disturbing more than 6 square feet of interior property in a home built before 1978, they must have this EPA lead certification. And you can find it on the web at EPA with lead certification, yourstateletters.net. Is it netcom or org? One of the two. Org. So it's EPA certification PA.org.
Except for Arizona.
Except for Arizona. EPA certification NJ for .org. And you'll find it's the exact same web page, but with the designation for your state. If the contractor must be, the firm must be certified, and the contractor must have taken a course to be personally accountable for ensuring all of his staff is qualified to do this. This is, yes?
You mentioned except Arizona.
No, the reason why you said except Arizona, it's not that Arizona is exempt from the law, it's they don't have a web page.
Well, they have one, but you have to spell out the whole name.
Arizona. It's not just AZ, it's Arizona. Yes, sure. Hang on. Yes, John?
Do you need a certification to test for lead?
No. No, this is a certification to do your construction work. No, not to remediate. This is to do plumbing work if you're cutting into a wall.
Yeah, but you don't need any certification to test for.
No.
Take a sample.
No, this is, you're not, the contractor is not doing a sample. This has nothing to do with that. That, I'm sure, is a separate certification. This is just for doing construction work. So it's lead certification, 2 letters for your state, .org. Okay? So this is a great thing for you to share with your real estate brokers. I send out a broadcast email to every real estate broker in my network, because how many here know of brokers who will recommend a contractor to do repairs on their listings to make sure the deal goes through? So they were so grateful that I said, oh, by the way, does the contractor that you're sending out there to fix this listing have this certification? Because if he doesn't, he is subject to a fine, and I'm sure the chain of suit will find its way back to you. So it's a great, you can print off the web page. It's very self-explanatory, and they are not kidding. Okay? So definitely, so that's just a little aside when it comes to talking about lead-safe practices. So, first of all, I'm going to share some information that many of you already know, I'm sure. But one of my mentors will say, and I believe it, repetition is the mother of skill. So I may repeat some things, but I hope I'm going to give you some new information that you don't know. So let's go over the different types of FHA insured mortgages. The first one is the 203B. The 203B is the straight FHA loan that most FHA buyers are qualifying for. It's what people are referring to when they say, I'm getting an FHA mortgage. With the 203B loan, what they're actually doing is they're qualifying to purchase a property, and in doing so, the appraiser comes out, evaluates the condition of the home, sends a report in. If there are repairs that need to be done, the seller fixes them, the appraiser goes back out, reevaluates it, thumbs up, you go to close. That's a 203B loan. Okay? That's the term for what people are referring to as FHA loans. Now, another little bonus for you guys who weren't in the class on Monday. Every one of you at the beginning of every inspection should be asking your clients, and maybe even when you schedule the appointment, so tell me, how are you purchasing the property we'll be evaluating today? FHA, VA, or conventional? You want to know this information because it's going to affect how you describe the conditions of the property and what kind of information you're going to share with your customer. So, the next thing is the standard FHA mortgage. Now, what a lot of people don't understand and don't know is what the straight FHA mortgage allows a borrower to finance up to 96.5%. All they have to do is put down 3.5% down, and they can get FHA financing. Additionally, there have been some recent changes as of April of this year regarding FHA insured loans. Anybody know what the changes were? The loan limits went up in January, and we'll talk about loan limits in a second. But another thing that happened in April was FHA made a new ruling that the MIP, which stands for Mortgage Insurance Premium, is now going to stay with the loan for the duration of the mortgage. Who said ugh? Why did you say ugh?
Because I got an FHA loan, and when I try to refinance, because when I got my FHA loan, the insurance rate is lower, it doesn't make sense for me to refinance.
It does. Okay, you know, what was your name again? I'm sorry, we spoke. Luke. Your badge is gone, and my memory is short. Luke mentioned a great point. He's like, he wanted to refinance into with another FHA mortgage, but he doesn't want to really do it now because he has an FHA mortgage. It had a low interest rate, but the MIP had an expiration date. But now the new one, if he gets one, will have a lifelong MIP. But let's talk about why that's a reason for doing this. Let me ask you this, Luke. Do you have a life insurance policy?
No.
Okay, I'm sorry for your wife. Okay, who here has a life insurance policy? Who here knows what one is? Thank you. Okay, who here will not raise their hand all day no matter what I say? Okay, thank you for noting. Thank you for caring. Okay, so that being the case, if you have a life insurance policy, do you pay on that life insurance policy as long as it is in force? Right? If you have a term life policy, do you not pay as long as the term exists?
Yes.
Okay, so an FHA mortgage insurance is insurance protection against default. Should that insurance premium not be paid as long as you have the possibility of defaulting on the mortgage? Because here's what happened. So many people, he's shaking his head no. Yeah, it should.
Yeah, I know what happened to all that mortgage insurance in this housing.
What happened was, exactly, so many people found out that when the housing boom took place, their home was now worth so much more than they had paid for. And at the time, if your value of the home gave you more than 30% equity, you could call an appraiser, have him come reappraise your property, and get rid of your MIP. So a whole bunch of people got rid of the MIP, and then guess what happened? No funds were being put into the mortgage insurance program. The housing crashed, and then what happened? A whole bunch of defaults. And FHA had to pay out policy premiums, had to pay out on insurance policies to the lenders because of all this debt, because of all this loss, and they had no premium income to come in. So to keep the process healthy, and because it only makes sense, FHA now requires that the MIP remain on the life of the loan. So now if you are talking to a real estate agent who says, oh, I'm not going to work with FHA because that MIP now stays with the life of the loan, this is how you answer them. Do you have health insurance? Do you pay health insurance as long as you want to keep healthy? Do you pay for your life insurance policy as long as the policy is in force? This is the same principle as that. It only makes sense to help keep the process healthy. So you shouldn't discount FHA insured mortgages. And the other reason why it's a good incentive, it's an incentivizing situation, is this. With FHA insured mortgages, just like Luke said, he had an FHA insured mortgage. The interest rates are great and really attractive, but the goal is to get people who are first-time home buyers, people who might have great credit, people who might not have a whole lot of ability to get a conventional loan. But the goal is, if you do really well with that mortgage, that you should be able to refinance out of the FHA into a conventional mortgage a couple years or so after you've had that loan, and this incentivizes you to try to get a conventional mortgage. Does that make sense? I'm sorry, I didn't say it loud enough. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I know it's 4:30, but you got to stay alive now. Stay alive. So, owner-occupied dwelling up to 4 families. FHA requires that. It can be mixed use, and we're going to talk a little bit about that in a minute. The next one is the 203H disaster victim mortgage. This is a very powerful tool. John, you're from Castle Rock. Did you know all those people who were flooded out of their homes because of the rains? That area was declared a federal disaster area. All of our 203K members in the Denver, Colorado area are able to reach out to these people and reach out to the real estate community, reach out to mortgage lenders and remind them that with the 203H mortgage, a person can actually get the money to finance the purchase of a new property, and even a tenant in a rental property can get financing to get a new home. And unlike an FHA-B loan, how much can they finance? 100%. What we did in our area a couple years back after Hurricane Sandy, we knew about this program. We had a lot of people in Pennsylvania and New Jersey who were suffering because of Hurricane Sandy. We provided them free evaluations of their properties to qualify for the 203H. We did not charge them the upfront fee for the 203H. We took that payment at settlement out of the escrow. We typically don't do that. We don't do that. But we waive the prepayment of the policy. Some people didn't go through with the loans, and we got burnt a little bit, but by and large, it was a great way for us to get back to our community and tell people something they had no clue. Hey, if you were damaged, if you suffered a loss, a total loss because of Hurricane Sandy, you can qualify for a 203H loan. And in many cases, that loan was easier to get, quicker to get than the FEMA disaster relief support. Anybody here also a FEMA disaster relief inspector? Takes a long time to get that money. This moves a lot faster. So this is a great tool for when you're working with a customer who has the ability to need to redo a home. And unlike an FHA 203K, you can use the 203H mortgage to buy new construction with 100% financing. So, the 203K program. Well, it's a good thing it's after 4:30 and somebody's got flights out of here today, because I could talk to you for the next 3 days about 203K. In fact, I talk for hours on end to anybody who will listen about the benefits and joys of 203K. I will not do that. Congratulations. I will briefly describe the fact that the 203K program is for single-family residents up to 4 family dwellings. The same rules of a 203B apply to the 203K, in that you are allowed to borrow up to 96.5%. And with the 203K loan, there are 2 different types. There's the standard 203K for major renovations, and there's the 203K Streamline for limited repairs. And we're going to go into those details in a little bit, but I'm just giving you an overview of all the programs FHA offers that are important to know, because all of these programs involve an understanding of the FHA minimum property standards and the minimum property requirements. Okay? So we're going to talk a little bit more about 203K. But the thing about 203K is, again, it's owner-occupied. I met with an investor from Prospect Mortgage. I'll be in Washington, D.C. next Monday and Tuesday with Freedom Mortgage and Prospect Mortgage and HUD. We are still working to try to get the 203K program available for investors. It is still going to happen. It is still going to happen. So it hasn't happened yet, but it should be coming. And we're hoping by 2016 to have the investor program back on board. And that's going to make this program huge. Okay, so for now, it's for owner-occupied homes, up to 4 family dwellings, and you also can use the FHA 203K for mixed use. You can use the 203B for mixed use. You can use the 203K for mixed use. You cannot use the 203H for mixed use. Okay? And the last but not least, and actually its newest product, and it's new because it's only been around since 1988, as opposed to the 203K, which has been around since 1969, is the energy efficient mortgage. Anyone here know what the EEM is? Wow. You know because you were in the 203K in a box. But energy efficient mortgage is a loan that allows a borrower to add to any other FHA loan money to do energy efficiency improvements up to 5% of the sale price of the property without having to pay interest, without having to pay down payment on that money, provided the amount of money that's being added to the mortgage, the cost of that renovation, the cost of those repairs is offset by energy savings on a monthly basis over a 20-year period. So anyone here a HERS rater? Okay, so Phil is a HERS rater. Okay, you have it? Okay, so don't ask me any questions, but I just raised my hand. I don't want to answer.
I am one.
And this is a great tool for you, because the cool part about energy efficient mortgages, it can be stacked onto any other FHA loan. Now, anyone here a BPI energy auditor? Put your hand down, Phil, because it doesn't matter. Very sorry to hear that, because FHA will not accept a BPI report. They only will accept a HERS report. And I did just recently re-verify that. Okay, so sorry to say they will not accept a BPI, only HERS. So that being said, the nice thing about this product is, especially you can use the energy efficient mortgage in conjunction with the 203K, which is a very powerful thing, because if there were repairs that the client was trying to do as a 203K that might make it a little bit too expensive, they can subtract them out of the 203K if they're energy efficiency improvements, put them into the energy efficient mortgage, and not have to qualify for that money. This is a very, very powerful thing. And everyone here knows their clients are all talking about green. Everyone wants to do green building, don't they? But as we all know in the construction industry, it costs a lot of green to go green. Okay? And this is why you can get that opportunity to do some green building with the energy efficient mortgage. You get to add up to an additional 5% of the sale price for energy efficiency improvements. So if the purchase price of the property is $200,000, they can add, what's that, additional 10 grand in energy efficiency improvements and not have to pay a down payment on it and not have to pay the actual no down payment. It's added to the mortgage, the monthly payment is addressed, but there is no interest on that portion of it. So it's a very powerful tool for people buying homes and wanting to do new windows, insulation, upgrade the heating system. And if you're putting in any kind of energy restoring system, solar, geothermal, or wind power, you actually can add up to 15% of the sale price. Yes?
Now, is that for the full length of the loan, or is it a shorter?
It's for the full length of the loan, but the calculation must be valid for the first 20 years. In other words, the calculation is based upon energy savings over the first 20 years, but the program is for the life of the loan. Yes? So, what is an FHA minimum property standard? There's two different things to note. There is a definition. This is right out of the HUD regs. An FHA minimum property standard is designed, the purpose of it is to ensure that the property is a single marketable property eligible for FHA insurance. That's what the purpose of the minimum property standards and minimum property requirements. And who uses it? Appraisals, obviously. Federal homeownership and many state and local grant programs are deferring to minimum property standards from FHA as a benchmark for how they can determine what they are going to basically judge a home's quality on. And the underwriting and mortgaging guidelines. So now, what is the difference between MPR and MPS? The difference is this. Let me give you an analogy. The phrase is minimum property requirements and minimum property standards, MPR, MPS. How many here saw the movie Pirates of the Caribbean 1, the only real good one? Who saw Pirates of the Caribbean 1? Thank you. Okay. Do you remember at the point where Keira Knightley's character was kidnapped by Captain Barbossa? And she took the guys, dragged her from the bed, and she said, "I demand parley." And they took her on board the ship. Remember that? Come on, nod your heads. Okay, thank you, thank you. And she got up to the captain and said, "I demand a parley." And what did Captain Barbossa said? "It's part of the code. You have to give it to me." He said, "Well, just let me. It's not really a code. It's more of a guideline." Okay. I'm disinclined to acquiesce to your request. Exactly. This is exactly what the difference is between the standards and the requirements. Requirements must be done and must be met. The standards are what we are hoping to accomplish and what the appraiser is looking to attract as the optimum situation. But even that being said, the FHA minimum property standards, or MPR minimum property requirements, are way lower than the home inspection requirements, and that's why government entities, city, state, federal governments, have used this as a tool for determining whether a property is eligible for habitability. So let's talk about how you should think about this. What you need to know about FMA and minimum property standards. The minimum property standards program, it's designed, minimum property standards, it helps a buyer, the system that we have, the understanding of MPS helps a buyer to understand what the FHA appraiser is going to call out. As home inspectors, what do you inspect to? Do you inspect to the lowest possible ability of that home, or do you inspect to optimum standards? Okay? And if something isn't exactly to the optimum expectation of that system or component, what do? You call it out. Now, why are you calling it out? Are you calling it out because the borrower really needs to know, or because you're doing a little bit of CYA? Both. Okay, exactly. And usually in many cases, it's more like 60-40, 60-40 CYA. Right? Anybody agree with that? Yeah. Okay? Because you're not so much concerned about what you're telling that client while you're standing there in the house. You're worried about 2-3 months from now, 4 weeks from now, 6 years from now, them calling you up and saying, "The heater broke." Well, yeah, I told you it was 40 years old at the end of its life expectancy with a high probability you'll have to repair or replace it within the next 1 to 2 years. So guess what? I was right. Why are you calling me? FHA, if the heater is within the recommended life expectancy, which for FHA is around 35 to 40 years, and does not show any significant wear, it will pass the minimum standards. Because they're not trying to concern themselves with optimum standards. They just want to make sure, is this home insurable enough so that if the customer defaults on the loan, will we be able to recoup the balance of the loan? Okay? This is what they're looking for. So you need to understand the difference between your standards of practice as a home inspector and the FHA minimum requirements. And in reality, many of you are going to have a little bit of difficulty, but it's not hard once you take off that hat that makes you feel like you have to be super inspector. I've got to find everything. That's not what you have to do. How many here have ever seen an actual FHA appraisal take place? How long was it? 30 minutes, tops. And that's a good appraisal. He goes through the house with what? Does he carry a tool bag? That's right. Does he have a screwdriver?
Does he even have a camera?
Yes, he has a cell phone now. Doesn't even carry a camera, he has a cell phone. He's probably talking to someone else while he's doing it. You know? So, he's in there for a maximum of 30 minutes because does he have to really get to the in-depth that you do as an inspector to determine that the house has 4 walls, a ceiling?
No, because most of what he does is measure.
That's right. It's a calculation to determine value. Value.
Average value in the area, not specifically for that house.
That's right. Average value compared to other neighboring homes, not to what the optimum condition or saleability of that property. Give that man a cookie. So, do you see the difference between what you're doing as home inspectors? So now, The difference is requirements and suggestions. It's basically what it boils down to. What would we like to see in a home is not the same as what is required. Now let me ask you a question I want you to ponder as we go through some of the rest of this presentation today. Who is its responsibility it is? Whose responsibility is it to determine if a property meets FHA standards?
The inspectors.
Realtor?
We have the inspector, we have the realtor, anybody else? The appraiser. Who else did what?
Loan officer.
Loan officer. Okay, so we've got a little gambit of everything. Hey, Jess. Okay, so we have realtor, inspector, appraiser, and loan officer. We'll further on and we'll see who's right. Okay, let me just see. Who here thinks it's the appraiser's responsibility to determine if the house should meet FHA standards? Okay, who here thinks it's the inspector's responsibility? Good. No, Luke, no. Put your hand down. Put your hand down. Who here thinks it's the loan officer's responsibility? Who here thinks it's mine? You should all be raising your hand. It's mine. I control the vertical. I control the horizontal. So we're going to talk about, let's break it down into the nitty-gritty. Now I want to make a little bit of a disclaimer here right now before we start. This system, this course is being taught to appraisers in a 16-hour class. I have 2 hours. So I'm not going to be going into the in-depth nitty-gritty of FHA requirements. Is that okay? I'm going to give you an overview, a cloud view of it. Because I can't do that in less than 2 hours. It's not. How many here could learn how to be a home inspector in a 2-hour class? Right? Okay, so for those of you, I just want you to say, I will not be covering every single solid issue, but I'm going to give you the high points. First of all, the exterior. MPS is organized by areas of the home. And these are some of the things to be concerned about, the exteriors. So let's talk about the exteriors of the property. Party walls are a big issue with FHA insured mortgages. Now with a party wall, is a party wall the same as a firewall?
No.
Not necessarily. Can a party wall be a firewall?
Yes.
Okay. Is every home that is a FHA insured home have to have a firewall? No. Does every home that's being insured with the FHA mortgage have to have a party wall? Yes. What is the definition of a party wall? It is a solid wall that goes all the way up to the top of the underside of the roof.
You're only talking about
Multi-units. You see how we have here? There is a party wall between these two properties here and between this property here. Is that party wall extending up as a firewall through those roofs?
No, not through it.
Not through it. Okay? But that wall goes up to the top of the underside of the rafters. That's a party wall. Now, many of us would cite this as a concern because there is no firewall that goes up through the top of the roof to stop the fire from jumping over to the next roof, right? Especially if it's a flat roof. Is it required that there be a fire stop at a flat roof? Say no. Say no. No. Thank you. But as home inspectors, you're calling that out, aren't you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay? You're not going to do that on FHA minimum property standards. And this is where you're going to find problem arises. And let's stop right here and talk about the typical process of doing a home inspection and an FHA report. A buyer's buying FHA. They're getting you to do a home inspection, Tim. Yay, Tim's doing a home inspection. Tim sees his property and he puts in his report, absent firewall extending through the roof of the property. This is subject to a concern, right? He puts that in the information. The borrower, and I'm going to use the term borrower more than I will say the phrase buyer, because as an FHA consultant, we work with homeowners and as well as home buyers. And I'm going to tell you right now, a little trick. The best way to get respect from the people that you're working with in your industry is to use the terminology that they use. So if you want to work with lenders, use the phrase borrower, not buyer. Because they don't deal with just buyers, they deal with borrowers. And so you will be able to talk to them on their level and you will raise your respect in their eyes. So now, the underwriter says to the borrower, did you have a home inspection? Yeah, I did. Well, can you send me that report? Because the appraisal hasn't been done yet, and they want to begin the underwriting process. That's the worst thing that could happen to that buyer. We're going to say buyer for this term. Because the underwriter is going to read your report, and it's going to say, absent firewall, potential fire hazard. And what's that going to do to the underwriter? Is that going to make him warm and fuzzy? There's a problem here. We need to have someone build a firewall. And then the appraisal comes in, and he makes no mention of it. And guess what happens at that point? How many of you have had a situation where you have gotten a phone call from a real estate agent where he said, look, the appraiser didn't call for something, but it's on your home inspection report, and the underwriter's not happy with it. We need you to change what's written on your report or word it a little less strongly. Anybody? Okay? So is your home inspection report truly a tool for them to go buy the house, or is it a stumbling block?
Stumbling block.
Okay? Now, what if you were able to provide a report that was only focusing on those FHA minimum property standards and requirements given to them early in the process, so the underwriter had something they could utilize that was going to be similar to the appraisal report, and when the appraisal report came in, it mirrored that and gave that underwriter justification and validation of the condition of the property. Have you done your client a disservice?
No.
No.
As long as you state in your report, this is for FHA purposes.
Exactly, because you're not going to be doing a home inspection. You're going to be doing an FHA minimum property standards evaluation. And that's why I suggested in the very beginning, when you go out and meet with your clients or when you are making your appointment, you ask them, how are you buying your property today? Because I kept getting phone calls repeatedly, or I would hear from the grapevine, well, you know, that agent's not using you anymore because you put all this stuff on the home inspection, and when the appraisal came through, it didn't have any of that, and they feel that you unnecessarily alarmed their buyer. All right, this situation happened in the personal life of my assistant, Jessica, who's in the back of the room being adorable. She was selling her home, and I had been out to the house. A home inspector came in, and it had a porch roof over an unheated space. Important terminology, unheated space. The porch roof, this home inspector, and we love ourselves, said that the porch roof had to be completely replaced to the tune of $2,500. I said, wait a second. You could rebuild the daggone porch without $2,500. And they said, and the home inspector said, and I am most certain that the FHA appraiser is going to call for this in his report. Well, Jessica works for me, and I've been to the house. And I said, he absolutely is not going to call this as an FHA required repair. And the buyer says, well, we're not going to buy this house until you replace this roof. I said, here's what we will do. We will not negotiate on home inspection findings. We will, however, negotiate and complete anything that the FHA appraisal requires since you are buying FHA. That's all sellers are willing to do anymore with FHA transactions. How many of you had a real estate agent say, look, don't beat the house up too much because the seller's only going to do what FHA says? Who's ever had that call? Anyone have an agent say that to you when you walk out to a house? And you don't have a clue what that means, do you? Well, I got to do my inspection according to the standards of this agreement that they're signing. I can't help what they're saying. But what if you were able to say to that agent on the phone, well, if that's the case, we can do one of two things. We can not do the home inspection and do a special report called minimum property standard evaluation. It's slightly less expensive, but it will not be to the same depth of information as a home inspection. Or we can do an additional report called minimum property standards that the borrower can see are those things that they're only going to need to be concerned about for the purpose of getting the mortgage, and be able to give that to the underwriter as an additional cost. Do you think the real estate agent will like those options?
So,
Yes, Luke.
Give me the straight. What you're saying is people that are buying the house only need an FHA inspection. So
People buying a house with an FHA mortgage only need the FHA appraisal.
Well, that's not really what you just said.
I know that. Let me finish. What I said was, that's what they need. But people nowadays in the For the loan, for the purpose of buying the house. Well, don't you need the loan to buy the house, Mike?
Right, but what you need to buy the loan and what you need to know about the house.
No, people.
Are two different and companionable things.
Okay, Mike, what you just said is not true. And let me tell you let me just change one word, okay? What they need to buy the house and get the mortgage, and what they should want to understand what their investment is.
Okay.
Home buyers today, middle income, low to moderate home buyers, buying foreclosed homes, REOs, short sales. They know they're getting something that is in many cases a pig in the poke. But they know more than that, they only really want to know, what do I got to do to get this mortgage? What's it going to take for me to get this house, and is it going to even make it? So if the report that I give on minimum property requirements is a grocery list long, and it says you can't get the house unless you replace these cracked web trusses, you can't get it until you replace these cracked plumbing lines, on and on and on. As a home inspector, I'm also adding things like torn carpeting, stains in the ceiling, condensation, indication of condensation and rust, right? Aren't we doing that? Do they really need that? No. And they don't really want it.
That's their I'll fix it later comment.
That's their I'll fix it later stuff.
How does that interact with minimum, like, state standards for home inspectors?
You're not doing a home inspection.
If I inspect more than 3 systems, I have to be a licensed.
Unless you have to be a licensed home inspector, but you do not have to do a licensed home inspection. You can do any service that you have a signed agreement with the customer to perform in any state. You're changing the scope. Now, here,
So I
Luke.
need a different agreement.
That's right. Yes, and we've got that.
Are you working off the assumption that the appraiser sees the home inspection report?
No, I'm working off the assumption that the underwriter is seeing the home inspection report.
How does the underwriter see it?
Because they're asking for it.
There is no home inspection.
It's not there.
People have been trained to want some sort of report before they buy a property. The real estate agent is saying, you need to get a home inspection. But then after they say that, they tell you, don't beat the house up because they can only get FHA repairs done. So what we have done, what I have done, I have created a product that gives the best of both worlds. It gives the borrower information early enough in the transaction so they can withdraw the offer if need be, but only based upon those elements and things that will be pertinent to the option, to the process of getting the mortgage, which is in most cases the only things a seller is going to do. You following me? Take your home inspector's hats off, guys. You don't need them right now. You still can get paid. Yes, sir.
So it sounds like we're marketing this service as have this service before you appraisal. So what's the general acceptable fee for an FHA evaluation versus the appraisal that they don't want to get if it doesn't pass our report?
Very good question. But I'm going to repeat it because Mike was coughing.
Well, but the point I was making earlier, I think you might have misunderstood what I was saying.
Okay.
People have several options. They can go with nothing until the appraiser calls out for an inspection. And then they could get a full-blown inspection, or they could get this FHA-approved evaluation.
Right, but
Or they could get both
correct.
and provide the evaluation to the lender.
Yes. Or they can.
That's the point I was making.
Oh, okay. I didn't understand what you were saying about that. I apologize. The cost can be zero if you want it to be, and you can add it to. That's right. I know. I don't like zero either. It could be zero. You could do it as a free service, okay? Or you can add on any amount you want to make it, because you're limited in what you're doing. You're not going on the roof. Does an appraiser go on the roof? You're not removing electrical service panel covers. Does the appraiser remove electrical service panel covers? Yes, sir.
How long does it take to write the report?
The report is a checklist.
How long does it take to write the report?
30 minutes, maybe?
Their standards.
We've created the entire process. It's actually it's a PDF form fill. You can do it from your tablet. Click, 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 click. We gave it to him for $250. Yes. Hang on, hang on. He's had his hand up a long time, Mike.
Okay.
Not fair. Yes.
Has any of this come back and bit you in terms of, like, you did this shortened version, or you told them, here, let's get you a shortened version, and then all of a sudden they find out that their plumbing fixtures are, you know, $10,000 worth of repair that needs to come up? Has
Okay.
anyone ever tried to come back on you?
No. The question is this ever had any kickback? Because guess who comes behind me after they move, before they move into the house? The appraiser. And if he didn't call it out as a minimum standard requirement, it wasn't a requirement to buy the house. It's part of the risk of home ownership.
The appraiser's not going to check the function of those items.
But that is the process is to ensure that the house meets minimum standards for the process of getting a mortgage. You don't have to cover yourself, because if the appraiser didn't call for it either, then the goal, which was to get the mortgage, has been met.
But appraisers frequently call out a roof certification.
No, they don't. Not anymore. Not for the past 3 years.
Really?
Yes. That went away with the handrail requirement. Yes, ma'am.
Well, you're basically saying that we can offer up regular home inspections. But
Yes.
in the interest of our client to just offer a particular inspection.
Right. In the interest of your client, I'm giving you an option. I'm giving you an additional tool.
And you have the scapegoat. You're
Put
not
it in the contract.
doing a home inspection.
Exactly. In the report, it says this is not a substitute for a comprehensive home inspection.
You should call it an evaluation versus an inspection.
It is called an evaluation, Mike.
Everybody else keeps saying inspection.
But
I'm just making the comment.
that's what it's called, the minimum property standards evaluation.
Confuse this with the inspection.
It isn't. It's called an evaluation. Yes.
So because this is the government, but exactly what he said, it's an evaluation, is there a certification control or requirement?
It is not the government. The government has nothing to do.
They're backing, I know, they're just backing the loan.
They have nothing to do with this. Who controls the person, the entity that controls whether or not a property meets minimum property standards is the underwriter, not the federal government.
So they don't require any specific certification to be FHA.
Evaluation, correct. Because this has nothing to do with the government. Just like a 203K renovation loan, you must be on the FHA approved roster, but FHA does nothing to oversee your day-to-day activity. The underwriters and the lenders do. Yes, ma'am?
Just for clarity, so my mom can do this.
Yes.
Not it.
Except in Luke's state, where if you are evaluating 3 or more systems, you must be a home inspector to do it. That's why I'm talking to you guys. Because in certain states, if you're doing anything remotely related to a home inspection process, you must be a licensed home inspector.
What states are those?
And you must meet those minimum
You must have 3 years.
If you are reporting it as a home inspection.
If you're involved in a real estate transaction that has 4 or less units in the state of Washington, you have to maintain their minimum standards.
In that state, yes. Okay. However, I actually have a call into them. I sent them a copy of this system.
Drafted, so I'm pretty sure.
Well, I sent a copy to them saying that this is an evaluation for the purpose of obtaining a mortgage, okay, and that it is similar to the FHA appraisal requirements. Now, FHA appraisers are not required to do anything that has to do with the Washington State. It's a federal guideline. So I've put in a letter to Washington State and also to Arizona and Texas to say, hey, guys, is this working for you? The other states, I got thumbs up. Those are 3 states that I'm waiting to hear back from. Yes.
So, correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
There really would be nothing wrong with, in your discussions with the buyer up front, where you're finding out that it's an FHA loan and all this. I'm going to do a full home inspection for you, but I'm going to generate a second report, which is to minimum property standards.
Yes.
So I could generate my original report, generate this other one, and say, but I do charge you slightly a bit more for that second report that is specific
Exactly.
to your limit.
And that's right.
And then you upcharge the second report.
Exactly.
Just take it right off there.
Now, that's what, and this is where I originally got the idea. As I said, I was being paid $550 from the city of Philadelphia because I did a $400 inspection, and then the other $150 was for creating the minimum property standard report that they used to get the government grant. Okay? So, detached units, that's an issue. If there is no direct access to the backyard of the property, that's going to be a flag unless they can go through the home. So if the house is a semi-detached home or a multi-detached home and you can't get to the backyard and there's no back door or kitchen door to get to the backyard, that's going to be a flag. That will flag the property. Multiple properties on one lot. Anyone here have that issue where they built a house behind the other house? There must be a permanent shared maintenance use agreement on file with the municipality for that. Now, is it the appraiser's responsibility to go to the county and find out if that's there? No. It's up to the underwriter to request the listing agent to get the seller to provide this information. What you're doing as an FHA minimum property standard evaluator is you're basically giving a heads up to the customer, hey, does this exist? Does this seller have a shared maintenance agreement on this system? And you're getting it within 10 days of the execution of the agreement in the same time frame as your home inspection, so that if it isn't there, the seller has a chance to get it done, or you know that you should withdraw your offer and look at another house. When is an appraisal done? 3 days after closing, or 3 days after the agreement is signed, or 3 days before settlement? It's like a week to 2 weeks before settlement, which in some cases is 3 months after the agreement was originally executed. And it's so frustrating when you get a phone call, well, your home inspection report had all these things on it that I actually had my seller negotiate to repair, and now I got this report from the appraisal with a whole bunch of other stuff that wasn't on your report. Why did we do what you asked them to do when the appraiser had stuff that was different? Well, my inspection report doesn't describe easement. It's not supposed to talk about that. I'm not supposed to flag the fact that there's no kitchen door going off the back of the house. Does the absence of a kitchen door at the back of the house fail to meet any home inspection standard? No. How many of you do homes in areas that have high tension power lines? If the home is underneath, within the drop zone of those cables, they cannot get an FHA insured mortgage. Yes?
I've done one similar to what you're talking about. I mean, you have the bigger, higher powered ones, then you have the standard telephone pole ones, then you have that next step up. Looks like it's high powered, carrying bigger powered wires. They asked me if that would pass as FHA, and I told them, well, it should, because it's not one of the large ones, but the FHA person called it anyway.
Nope.
It's a judgment call.
It is anything bigger than a telephone pole is considered high tension wire.
Anything bigger.
Yes. And so exactly what he did. He said it shouldn't be a problem, and it isn't under the home inspection standards to discuss, and I'm going to get you in a second. But as FHA, you cannot get an FHA insured mortgage with that home. Well, what do you mean I can't get an FHA insured mortgage? FHA is not required to insure every home that asks for it. Just like if you are 98 years old, you're not getting life insurance. Yes, sir?
What's the definition of the drop zone?
If you have two high tension power poles and you have the cable that's running between them, any place that that cable could drop and hit the house.
Not side to side.
I've never seen that.
So generally is the utility easement before the property line enough to cover that drop zone?
It usually is, depending on how it's running, yes. They're very popular in some parts of the country. They have them in Pennsylvania, where the power lines, the house was first, and then they put the poles up. And I've had homes that had FHA mortgages prior to 2005, where they gave it an easement because the house was grandfathered. There is no grandfathering in this program anymore. It is not grandfathered. Yes?
Did you say in the house or in the property?
The house, the building, the structure has to be within the drop zone. And you know what? Because appraisers are so afraid of being smacked on the hand, if that's anywhere within the garage, that counts as the garage, anything. So for those of us who are doing these home inspections, we don't talk about that, do we? But then what happened is the appraisal didn't go through, and I got a phone call. Why didn't you tell me that we weren't going to be able to buy this house? Because it's not covered under my standards of practice. Well, we still paid you. Okay? It wasn't under our standards of practice. But do real estate agents care? All they know is their buyer's mad at them because they can't buy a house and they had it inspected. Yes, sir?
If you're doing the property evaluation, would you have mentioned?
Oh, yeah, that would be called out as a reason that the home would not even be able to get the mortgage.
You would have cited that in your evaluation.
Yes.
That it would not meet FHA, is that what you're?
It would not, right, that it would not meet FHA requirements, and therefore this property is not going to be eligible for it will most likely not be eligible for an FHA mortgage.
Under the evaluation.
Under the evaluation. And at that point, I'm sorry?
Inspection.
What?
Why then also get a...
Exactly, exactly. And so what we do in that circumstance is only charge them for the evaluation report. Because there's no need for a home inspection. They can't buy the house. Did you have another question? Did you have a question, Mike?
No, ma'am.
You can have more questions.
I will.
Okay, all right. Utilities. Minimum property requirements for the utilities. All utilities must be testable for an FHA insured mortgage. At some point during the property, that appraiser must evaluate all those systems. Now, what does that mean? He walks into the kitchen, turns on the faucet, and turns it back off. Okay? This is a 60 amp electrical service panel box with fuses and 2 main poles. Does this meet minimum property requirements? All right, let's do a hand raise. How many here think this meets minimum property requirements? How many think it does not meet minimum property requirements? You are wrong. FHA allows a property to have up to as low as 60 amp for a home to pass minimum requirements. Minimum standards, gentlemen. Yes, sir.
Doesn't that depend on the size of the home and sort of thing?
Minimum standard, 60 amps. They do not cover square footage. It is an acceptable panel box. If there's no frayed cable, and remember, they're not taking the cover off. Now, I'm sorry?
Fused is okay.
Fused is okay. Now, will you, as a minimum property standard evaluator, make a recommendation that says minimal by today's standards? Not on that report. Now, truthfully, do many of us see any 60 amp boxes anymore? Thank you. And they're getting FHA mortgages every day. Okay? Is this an acceptable heating source for a home? This is a pellet stove in a room. Is this an acceptable heating source? Yes. If it is customary for the community and it can sustain heat without human interaction for more than 48 hours.
Pellet stove with an automatic auger.
That's right. It can work for 48 hours. It can pass. Does every room have to have a heat source in FHA insured mortgages? No. How many of you write on your report when the room doesn't have a heat source as a major unsatisfactory finding?
It's a bedroom. It's a bedroom.
If it's a bedroom. Any habitable area, people are writing it up. Every room must have a heat source. But if you take the door off of the room, is that considered a heated area? If there's heat source in the other area? Yes. Is that room considered a bedroom at this point? No. People are getting around this requirement for heat sources by removing the doors from the wall. Come on, guys. How many here have done home inspections for more than 5 years? Buyers will do anything to buy this home that they absolutely want to have, won't they? Okay? So I'm just telling you what the government lets them do. Well and pollutant distances. This is where they will be picky. Okay? They don't like this. Now, let me ask you this. When you do your home inspection report, how many here check to see if there is the availability to connect to public sewage for the property? You do that on your home inspection? Why is it required? State of Arizona requires a home inspector to report whether or not it's possible to add. Okay, that's interesting. We list if it's public or private. Yes, everybody does it. We all say that the home has private well or septic or public water and sewage. We all do that. But do you actually check to see if it is feasible to connect to public sewage if the home has a functioning well or septic system? No. If FHA insured mortgage and it is feasible to connect to public well and sewage and water and sewage, and by feasible, the cost of the connection is less than 50% of the purchase price, FHA will make them change over to public utility.
Now, feasible, again, you're saying is geographic, because
Feasible, I gave feasible is represented by the cost.
right.
I
Well,
just,
feasible could be represented by the fact that, sorry, they don't have that out there.
no, feasible, if it's there, if it's there,
If it's on the strip.
right, if it's on the street,
Yeah.
and the cost to connect to it is less than 50% of the sale price, that's considered feasible. Yes?
How do you figure the cost?
That's what will happen. The appraisal will stop it. They'll stop and say, this property needs to, you need to pull, they will make the seller pull a report to determine, get a contractor to come out and give an estimate for what the cost will be.
You're saying it's possible.
Yes,
Or available.
exactly. Yes, we're giving the heads up. Hey, guess what? When I pulled up, I know you got a well and a septic system, but I did see the public water stops.
So it's the appraiser that says it'll thumbs up or down.
No, the underwriter. The underwriter. The appraiser is going to call it out that you need to find out how much it's going to cost to connect to public sewage because he's saying you must do it. The seller has to get a report to say I don't have to because the cost is higher than 15%.
15?
15. 1-5. Oh, I'm sorry. 1-5. 15.
We thought you were saying 50.
Oh, no. 1-5. 15% of the purchase price. It's considered feasible.
Well, that's still, most of the time, it's going to be less than that.
That's right. Because, yes.
So if it's available, you always call it out, and the seller has to prove that it's not feasible.
Correct.
Okay.
Because who does the burden of responsibility to fix FHA repairs fall on? Thank you. And I've had a situation where a seller had just replaced the septic system a year before.
Ouch.
He was hot.
Well, can't the seller just decide not to sell FHA?
Yes, but the buyer may not be able to qualify for not FHA. And that's exactly why I've created this. Does anybody see a marketable opportunity with this? Okay. Do you know how many deals I've saved for buyers just because of the water and well and septic issues? Because sellers who have private well and septic system don't want to connect to public sewage. Do you know how expensive it is to connect to a public sewage? Because they charge you a huge connection fee to make up for the fact that you haven't paid for it for the past 25 years. This is where the FHA 203K comes in handy. Because as an FHA 203K consultant, in addition to an FHA minimum property standards evaluator, I can offer the option for the seller that I tell you what, instead of you spending the money to upgrade the system, if you lower the price of the house to offset the cost that you would have to spend anyway for an FHA buyer, if you want to proceed with the transaction, we can add the cost of the connection and the connection to public sewage to a 203K mortgage. And everybody's happy.
Did you say that was just septic, or is it water also?
I'm sorry?
They're getting the cost of septic and water.
Wait a minute. Too many at one time. Hang on. Him first, then you, Mike. Go ahead.
It includes water as well. Water's in the street?
Yes.
Connectability
Yes.
off of wells?
Water and sewage.
Water and sewage.
Yes, Mike.
Well, I was just going to say, you're going to make the real estate agent happy
And the seller.
buyer.
Yes.
Possibly even the seller, because you'll save their deal. But they'll get that big improvement at, say, $10,000 to $15,000 interest-free.
That's right. So you're making, this is called, in my world, a win-win-win. And you know what it translates into? It translates into something that somebody said to me the other day. Who is your competition at your local market? I have none. Because I don't let anybody in my market have the system. I don't give it to my competitors. Okay? That's why I'm not going to be teaching this at, never mind. I'm being mic'd. So, how many here have had a situation where there was a public water source near the septic system and they've changed the distances? What used to be the distance clearance from a public water system? Used to be 50. Now it's 100. Now it's 100 for FHA. Okay? 100.
Depends on where you live. In my
Yes.
I've been heavily involved with the municipal government. They don't allow new septic system installation. You must connect to municipal sewer systems.
Well, the municipalities, and if it's an FHA buyer, you will too.
Yeah.
Yes. Because why would you do that? Because is that house not more insurable and marketable with public water and sewage?
And worth more.
And worth more. So you want my insurance, you make the house as best as possible for me in case I have to take it back into default. Now, what is this? Who knows the name of what this is?
Composting toilet.
Huh?
Composting toilet.
Composting toilet, otherwise known as a privy. Is this acceptable for FHA minimum property requirements? Yes. If this is standard for the community, this will pass an FHA NPR. You got it made, okay? So, let's talk about general structural conditions. 5:30. I've got 5 minutes before I'm going to talk about, okay. Who's getting ready to leave soon? Okay. I'm going to stop right now because I want Luke to hear this and I don't want to have it go through. Have I shared with you the possibilities here? Okay, do I need to go into more depth about what you got to talk about as FHA, or should I just basically tell you that there is a system that we've created that will teach you the FHA minimum property requirements so that you can educate your consumers? That we have a PowerPoint presentation that you can give at real estate offices that will blow their minds about FHA minimum property requirements, that will give them the opportunity to know what you're doing. Would anybody be interested in that?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, so what I do want you to understand is this. Does FHA require a bedroom in a home? No. Does FHA require a closet in a bedroom?
Not if they don't have a bedroom.
Does FHA require a closet in a bedroom if there's a bedroom in the home? No. Does FHA require a maximum of 2 layers of roofing? What's the maximum number of roofing you can have for an FHA insured mortgage? 3. No to all questions. How many here who doing a home inspection and calling out when a roof has more than 2 layers? He's calling out more than 1. I'm scared of you. All bedrooms must have adequate egress to the exterior of the home. How many here live in an area where they put on a sunroom or a Florida room on the back of a bedroom where there's a window, so the window opens into the sunroom or Florida room? Anybody ever see that? Will that pass FHA? No. You must have egress from the house from 2 means. See, you're going to be looking for different things. I'm going to train you to look for different things.
Well, so, Catherine, if you tell them, if you take all the doors off and tell them there are no bedrooms, then you circumvented that requirement.
Yes, but you've also now dropped the appraisal value of that home. Okay?
Right.
It no longer meets the value. And that's really what an appraiser is looking for.
So if you have egress from the greenhouse that's attached to the bedroom, then you're okay?
No. What is your name?
I ain't telling you.
Uh-huh. What's his name? So, problems like cracks, siding, yes, all these are defective conditions that you will point out because it's not watertight. And these are concerns. You will point out things like this. You're not going to just be walking around saying nothing's wrong. You will point out obvious, significant defects. But you're not going to point out the hairline cracks that we point out as home inspectors. We got that now? Does FHA require a crawl space to be a minimum of 18 inches? No. Is it the appraiser's responsibility to determine a hazardous or defective conditioning requiring repair? No. Okay? Clue. All the answers to all the questions are no. Thank you. Here's how you can share this. Can you see an application for teaching real estate agents the difference between a home inspection and an NPR evaluation?
Yes.
Okay, don't say no. Can you see an opportunity to give homebuyer education classes to not only point out what an FHA minimum property evaluation is, but the benefit of getting both the minimum property evaluation and the more comprehensive home inspection? Mike? Huh? CC? Is this something you could add to your home inspection?
Absolutely.
Okay, and is this something that you would definitely use as a precursor to a 203K or EEM project?
Yes.
Daggone right. I turn more of these into 203Ks. because I'm failing it, and then they don't have any money to fix it. Seller's not fixing anything. There is no seller. It's a short sale. Well, guess what? We can do a 203K. So let's look at the flow of events here. You offer the client the FHA NPR evaluation, free or for a fee. You complete the report. If it passes the evaluation, then they can continue to purchasing the property, right? If it doesn't pass, and the seller is going to fix the repairs that you identify in that NPR, can you still move forward with your closing? Yes, sure. Time to go on to appraisal, right? If the seller is not going to do the repairs, and the repairs are under $32,000, what are you going to do? Streamline 203K. Now, why did I say $32,000? Who here believes that an FHA 203K streamline allows you up to $35,000 in repairs? You would be wrong. Because all 203K loans require a mandatory 10% contingency. Right. So, if you have $35,000 in repairs and you add that 10%, what did you just bring it up to? $37,500. So as you're doing this, you're going to tell your seller, your buyers, you don't want to max out your 203K streamline higher than $31,500, because when you add that 10%, what's that number now? Am I making sense, or you glazed looks on your faces? Okay? So, if it's more than $32,000 in repairs, you're going to go to a full 203K. And who wants to leave money on the table? Anybody here? This is going to give you a whole new revenue stream, and then you're going to need to service this option or call someone who's a 203K in a box consultant in your area. Jessa, would you please give Luke a couple of order forms as he walks out, because he has to catch a plane. So, you get higher fees for 203K consulting, and you have the ability to have all the fees that are paid to you as a 203K consultant reimbursed to the client at the settlement table. So if you do the NPR evaluation and charge a fee, then they go forward with the 203K and you charge the feasibility study and the work write-up, are all those fees reimbursable to the client at the settlement table? Yes. Absolutely. Jessa, 203K is a great tool, and we actually have making more money on this every day. Lower liability. Can you see a reduced liability in NPR evaluation? Yes. Than the home inspections you're doing? Yes. And more 203Ks are being done now than ever before. California is one of the biggest 203K areas in the country. Loan limits are very high. And you could take a house in a 203K world that looks like this and turn it into something like this and collect a fee of $3,500 or more. That's the next progression of skill, is to be a 203K consultant. The starting point is NPR evaluation. But the more you do, the more you're going to be leaving people wanting more ways to be able to fix these things you're finding wrong, the more you're going to say, I now have a need to be a 203K consultant. Take a kitchen that looks like this, radiator heat, steam with a gas can next to the radiator, and turn it into this. We have software that's complete and totally organized for you to use that creates all the reports. So, we have the 203K in a box complete comprehensive system to be a 203K consultant. And we teach you how to evaluate for minimum property standard requirements, because you must know them to be a 203K consultant. All of our 203K in a box members, raise your hand. Did I not teach you how to do FHA 203K minimum property standard requirements, including a checklist? And so what I did was I took the checklist that I created for 203K in a box and created the minimum property standard requirement evaluation system. The 203K in a box system includes the actual 203K home study course and the quick start system, working with contractor, all the tools that you need to be able to take you from where you are now to a successful 203K consultant with your phone ringing in as little as 3 weeks. Now, for that system, we have special bonuses, the home study course, 16 hours of CEU education training courses that you actually can get certified in your state to teach, as well as Contractor 101 courses where you teach contractors how to be successfully working with the FHA 203K program. And the total value of that system is $10,747. Now, as an added bonus, we're going to give those of you who purchased the 203K in a box consultant training and marketing system, the minimum property standard reporting system, a $319 value. We're adding it on for free. So right there on the back page of your order form, under additional bonuses where there's a blank line, write the FHA MPS reporting system. The value is $319. Now, all this and the MPS reporting system is just $14.97 or 3 installments monthly of $5.99. And you will be guaranteed that you will be able to make this money up within the first month of you, within the first job that you get, you will recoup this investment. But I know a lot of you are new to 203K. A lot of you are concerned, well, I don't know how many 203Ks are being done in my area. I don't know what lenders I could contact and talk about being a 203K. I don't know. And I get that. You want to potentially do some due diligence on 203K. But how many here think that they could add NPR evaluations tomorrow if they knew how? So because I know that some of you want to move in a little slower than going right to 203K, although this is what you're going to be asked to do once you start doing these, I'm just giving you the heads up. We are offering you, and Jess is going to hand out another order form, the minimum property standard system for, come on, let's go, just $275. Here's the deal. If those of you who are considering purchasing the 203K in a box system, but want to have time to check your markets, to find out who are the lenders, how many deals have been done in my area, who currently is doing that. For those of you who want that, I will make you a special offer. I will hold the price of $14.97 or the 3 installments of $5.97 until November 1st, provided you give me your order form filled out with everything except your credit card number. For those of you who want to purchase the minimum property standard reporting system, which includes a training manual and all the FHA guidelines, it includes the NPR checklist format, which is usable on any device, tablet, Apple, Mac, PC, you name it, you can do it on your cell phone and email it right to the client through your PDF generator on your cell phone. It includes the reporting forms, the agreement that's customizable with your logo and information, and the PowerPoint show. It also will include the recording that we're making right now of the system, and it will also include for you the downloadable audio recording and slideshow from this presentation, so that you actually can listen to this again, so that you know what you're saying when you give the when you give the PowerPoint educational training to your audiences. This $275 price leaves with me today. But if you think you might, if you are purchasing the 203K in a box system, you will get it for free with your system, Darren. That was your special prize. Yes, John?
So the 203K in a box has a PowerPoint presentation for lenders?
It has 5 PowerPoint presentations. If you look on your order form, there are 5 different PowerPoint presentations for lenders. In addition to this, correct. Yes. So, does anybody have any questions? I told you I'd get you out a little bit early. Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Not really a question, more of a highlight.
Okay.
So, especially after being here for 4 days, 95% of this room at least is white, male, and over 35.
Yes.
We're not getting FHA loans. We have a different clientele to do this. Homeowners, families that wouldn't typically possibly be able to borrow. Correct?
Not necessarily, because you see, the question is that you're not typically getting FHA buyers. Are you asking?
Yes.
You're asking all your clients how they're buying their home.
No. What I'm asking,
Okay.
sort of highlighting, is that are we looking at different clientele?
No, you are not.
Average clientele.
The average client is using FHA, and you just don't know it. Because what does it take to get a conventional loan? 20% down, your left lung, 17 years on the job. What does it take to get a credit score of what, 2,000?
Yeah, it's incredibly high.
Okay. Guess what the credit score requirement is for an FHA mortgage? 620. With only 3.5% down. And you can have had a foreclosure on your records within 1 year.
Right, that's why I'm saying this is a different
It is yuppie puppies are using this because they don't want to give up their savings. Okay? Savvy buyers are using this program because they don't care about the MIP because they're going to refinance out of this in a couple years. Senior citizens are using this loan to buy homes because they know that this FHA mortgage is assumable.
That's a key point, because I didn't believe, I've already taken the 203K in a box program, and I was really skeptical, and as I was just doing my inspection business, I found out that almost 35% of my inspections were FHA, and now it's even higher than that. And she's exactly right. What people are figuring out is that you can get into this program. Who wants to put $35,000 down on a house? Who has that to put down on a house? And that's what a conventional mortgage requires now, depending on the price of the house. So now I'm finding, and I just talked to a lender the other day in my inspection business, 60% of their clients are requesting some sort of government assistance or an FHA loan. That's what they're asking for.
And what part of the country are you from, Doug?
Montana, which is pretty, the town I live in is pretty white, middle class, upscale.
Well, plus the loan cap is pretty high.
The maximum loan limits have been raised. The minimum, I know this is going to sound funny, the minimum maximum loan cap in the United States is $417,000 for a single family home in all, that's the minimum maximum.
So it's Utah.
And that's in Utah, we showed you. Okay? In areas like California, the maximum loan limit for a single family home is $625,000.
Wow.
Yes, Sean? Is it Sean?
Scott.
Scott, sorry. Mm-hmm.
In Washington State, I've been doing a lot of loans. That I would say that 70% of the people that we service are FHA borrowers, but we've never had anyone that's doing the minimum standards inspection that we see. So who's doing that?
No one's doing these in your neighborhood. There's no, I created this, but what's happening is they're getting to the appraisal and the deal is stopping.
That's what I'm wondering. A lot of the appraisers in our neighborhood, maybe they're ignorant or something, but they don't call a lot of things, and it seems to go in a different...
That's right, and you're calling all this stuff on your home inspection, causing trouble when it's not being called by the appraiser. That's what I'm saying. Thank you.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, who's doing this stuff. So
I created this...
Like the appraiser, or they like in control of all that?
Every time you get a call from an appraiser, that's an FHA appraiser.
Yeah, they're...
Yeah, saying...
I created this about 2 years ago and tested it in my market in Philadelphia. Yes?
Are all appraisers FHA appraisers?
No.
Or if it's people are trying to get an FHA loan, then it's going to be an FHA
Yes.
appraiser?
All appraisers are not FHA appraisers, but if you're getting an FHA mortgage, you must have an FHA appraiser. Now, there's a conventional appraisal, and most appraisers can do both, but some appraisers only do conventional loans and do not do FHA, but an FHA appraiser can do conventional. So if you're interested in buying the system, please bring your forms up to the front. If you're interested in getting that, wait till November 1st, please fill it out and bring that up as well, and just simply say, I want to check it out. Please hold me until November 1st, and we will reach out to you. I thank you so much for joining me today. I just want to let you know something real briefly. I am a success. I have everything I need in life. Right now, I'm doing this to create significance for the market, significance for you, and to make it a more enjoyable experience for the world. I believe in home buying to the point where I want it to be an attractive, enjoyable experience for everyone. I have everything that I need. My life is blessed. I was able to give my daughter an amazing wedding, and right there is Jessa, as one of the bridesmaids in our wedding that we just had September 1st, and I was able to be there for all of it and not have to worry about life. So, 203K in a box is the fastest way to success for FHA buyers, but I'm going to tell you this. You can be more than just a home inspector. You can be the deal maker. Thank you all so much. Have safe traveling home, and please come up if you have any questions. Okay. Thank you, John. So please see Jessa in the back if you have a form you'd like to give her. If you have any questions, please come up to me here in the front. I'm going to unmic. Hang on for 1 second. Oh, there it stopped. I stopped. Yeah, unplug me from the back. Thank you. I'm letting you invade my space. Yeah? Thank you, thank you, thank you. Easy. Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
I was trying to pull that.
Yes, yes.
Okay, I bought a year from now, right now, for years.
Okay.
Does her resident, does any of that take any time being her resident? Or do I still have to have 3 years as an inspector?
3 years as a, no, what is your background prior to being a home
I
inspector?
haven't done any of it yet. I've done all by.
Yeah, so how long have you been a home inspector?
2 years now.
2 years now? I'm not going to want you to cheat the system. You need to wait for a year, but you can do the NPR while you're waiting to get your certification to do the full 203K.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. I bought the home study guy.
Of course, yes, yes.
And I'm kind of waiting, to be honest with you, I was kind of waiting for like January to shut my period.
Yes. Yes, but this is something you can be doing right now.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Okay? All right. Timothy and Tom, as current 203K in the Box members, you're getting this system as your Christmas present.
Oh, great. Thank you very much.
You're getting this for free for Christmas. You come back in, then you will be getting this for free for Christmas as well. Okay? Welcome back.
I was just going to say,
Yes.
I'm just getting hooked back up.
That you will have it as your Christmas present.
What am I getting for Christmas?
You are getting this entire system for free with your 203K in a Box system.
On Wednesday or Friday already. I only do one.
What a cute little pen. I don't know what that is. That's one of those stylus pens. Yes, yes.
The reason I don't do
So did you have any questions?
by myself, and I
No,
want to be able to meet.
It looks great.
Need by one of my
It's exciting. It's very exciting.
I'll resend you everything I got
need to do
from
this in 3
Please
days.
do.
So
Yes, I
I
will take care of
don't
that.
schedule more than one a day, and that way if I have to fit something,
Why,
I
shocked you?
can. But I don't want to do more than one a day.
You're going to go out and have
I'm 60 years old.
Well, I met Jessica's mother and her stepfather. And guess what her stepfather's name is? Tom.
But I do other inspections. I do insurance inspections. And
I got a ton in the program. I got my husband's a
I
Tom.
make more money doing those. So I mean, I make like 5 times sort of making a home inspection.
Oh, and that
It's a
picture,
lot easier work.
which one was your son?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll show you.
You have a
I'll go back.
specific thing you're
Let's see,
going
where's
to
my
look at.
clicker? Where's my clicker?
Last week I did an insurance inspection.
lost
I didn't even want you to see what kind you had.
It's a black here. It is.
Oh, like, yeah.
Yeah.
In one room of a
There's my son right next to Jessica. Oops.
Oops.
There's my son right there next to Jessica in his uniform.
Oh, that's him right there. Okay.
Yes. And there's my daughter.
Where it came from. Where
Yes.
the cause and origin.
And that's my
Well,
granddaughter.
information.
And that's my
I look around the
grandson.
house looking for other
Okay.
things
Yes.
because of the water.
They had a beautiful
And
wedding.
I find
The
other
sun
things,
was
and I'll
shining.
report those,
It
but
was
they're not
88
related
degrees
directly
with
to
98% humidity.
claim.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yes.
that must have been miserable having
By
like.
the insurance company.
You could eat the air. But you know what? Well, actually, the ceremony was outdoors. But as soon as the ceremony was over, we all went inside to the air-conditioned mansion. So it was a full 2-story mansion. So we went inside to the mansion. Oops, oops, we gotta stop. Oh, we need to tell David that we finished the presentation.
Tell me what they want to do. I get $200 an hour.
He'll edit it for me.
If I drive, I get $200 an hour for driving.
Yes, sir.
Local. Yes, I don't do that for home inspections. I normally do,
Yes, sir.
for home inspections, I do South King County, Kitsap, East Kitsap, and then Thurston,
Yes.
North Thurston, and then Pierce County.
Exactly.
You go about 9:00.
It's this. Right, right. And that's 75. Right.
If you get somebody
Yeah, yeah.
that
We'll
needs
get
your
you-
home
we'll get you
inspection,
a copy.
call me, I'll
Yes.
do the same
Thank
for
you
you.
so much,
You
James.
get your
Back
car
to
and stuff,
Jessica.
because
Thank
there's
you.
no reason for you to drive all the way up there, and I have job people call me from, and I turn away for a living.
Well, and you're the next neighbor over.
Yeah.
Well, and that's just it.
Yeah. I can be both my cards. The reason you're going to want to expand to this is because it's
Did you give him a copy for his record, Jess?
Don't want to stay busy as you get old. Yeah, call me. Yeah, tell them to call me. Well, the thing is, if you do a good job, they'll come back. I mean, the agents will come back to you all the time.
Because the other guy